Hey everybody, welcome to the Voxology Podcast. Mike Erre, Tim Stafford. We're glad to be with you today. Hello, hello, and hello. It is...
It used to be your big catchphrase for this was, hello, Internet.
Hello, Internet. Yeah, these days, Internet has a face. And it's the face of our dear listeners who are really kind of amazing people. And we get all sorts of great comments and feedback and questions from. Timothy Stafford, this is your favorite time of year. We are recording Friday, October 27th. This is the night of your show, right? Your graveyard thing.
It is completely sold out.
Well, of course. That's genius.
Not for me. I'm not even on the flyer. It's for the movie, but...
Well, yeah, but you're playing, right?
We'll pretend it's all for me.
And then we're showing Coco, the movie.
Coco.
In a cemetery.
Yeah, it should be pretty rad. In the cemetery, we're going to open up playing songs to the little kids choir, which is like 5 kids. So choir can be whatever. But and then there's some traditional Aztec dancers. There's sugar skull painting. There's a costume contest.
Oh, my goodness.
And then there's the movie in the cemetery on a big blow-up screen.
Dude.
Should be fun.
This sounds so up your alley. Definitely not Jesus-ween. This is definitely Halloween. So, I don't know.
Depends. I think today, hypothetically, I'm going to put out the Midnight Mass episode, the conversation with Caitlin, as like a rerun.
Yeah.
I was just talking about how like my favorite genre of literature is... when I was studying for my master's was this genre called the grotesque. And it's like taking things that are both broken and beautiful at the same time, and you put them together into this thing, and it's a really compelling narrative for, I think, humanity.
Well, that's actually a great way to describe the podcast.
That's right.
You know, and I'll let the listener decide who is who on that broken and beautiful.
I know I'm the broken one.
I don't know, man. I think I can give you a run for your money on that. 2 white men in therapy. So, Halloween, what are you going to dress up as? Because, I mean, this is your day.
I know. I got a full werewolf with a suit, though.
With a like suit or a werewolf suit?
No, like a suit with the full mask and stuff.
And the hands? Yeah, but the
werewolf... Can't wear the gloves because I have to play guitar.
Oh.
So I'm trying to use my naturally hairy hands.
That's awesome. I will be in the great city of Long Beach this weekend. Like doing the Lord's work as opposed to you. And
we got to keep it balanced.
Yeah, that's true. Beautiful and grotesque.
That's right.
Let's see here. Everything else okay? Give me one good thing that happened to you this week, just because we know all the horrible things. Our group texts are always full of everything is horrible.
Oh, yeah. This week got even worse.
We probably shouldn't have had children, but they're here. There's nothing we can do about that now. Anything good, Timothy? Anything? That's dead air. That's some dead air.
I recorded some new songs.
Yeah?
In between other things, yeah.
Halloween songs?
No, just stuff. I've been trying to work on those hymns.
Yeah.
Rewriting some modern hymns through a more appropriate theological lens. Not that I understand theology better than the people that wrote original hymns, but just in modern day context.
I love that. Okay, there you go. Well, this is another thrilling start into the Voxology podcast.
What about you? What was your good thing from the week? High, low, aha.
Oh, there it is. Didn't we do this last time? The weather here in Nashville has been majestic.
Oh, yeah. We've had rain.
Oh, that's good. We actually haven't. We have a burn. Like, you can't burn things even in a fire pit because it's so dry. But the weather's been amazing. We have a front porch. And so I have found myself a good book, and I sit on the front porch with my Kindle and just listen to the leaves scatter across the street. And it's just been wonderful. I've had a great week, and I don't know. This has just been I have just a great life right now because I get to study things I'm really fascinated about, and like things I would do anyway, I get to do. So I don't know. It's just it's a lot of fun. The one thing that's a low for me is that I don't know. We've decided to reintroduce all sorts of Christian language for corrupt power dynamics going on in our political systems, and those get covered up with all sorts of Christian quotes, and it just drives me insane to no end. To no end.
Yeah.
I am thrilled that there are people who love Jesus who enter into the political realm and seek to do good. I am not thrilled with people who take the Lord's name in vain, and lie, cheat, and steal, and then quote verses to make that okay. Man, that bugs me.
Yeah, and then we got a new Speaker of the House, and he launched right away.
Yeah, I know, and this is so hard because I know there are so many Christians that are like, great, this is exactly what we want, right? Somebody who loves God, who's in the speakership, and he's quoting the Bible, and he's talking about how God raised him up, and and certainly God did that in the Old Testament. I just am so skeptical of all of that language.
Well, especially remember we talked recently about deliverance language, and what it does to the person in the pew that's been praying so hard that their cancer goes away, and feeling like if according to that language, God does not care about their prayers, or they're not praying well enough. And so when I see a guy like him get up and pray or talk about after this recent shooting that happened a couple of days ago,
in Maine,
and get right back into the thoughts and prayers and how it's
the heart, and
it's just like, what does that tell a world that just keeps seeing carnage praying about? You know what I mean? Like it to people who don't know God or have not been interested in that conversation, I would imagine this has the similar effect the deliverance language has, where it's like, oh, there goes the Christians talking about their God and prayer again while 20 people were killed. And it's like, it's a tough, I feel like it does the opposite.
Yeah. No, I think you're really onto something. And we did an episode a while back on all of that. It's a heart problem and not a gun problem. And so, if you're interested, you can go back a few episodes and find that. But, so at our church in Tennessee, we're going through Genesis, and we're getting to the place now where we're looking at image bearing. And one of the things that's so clear, if you just take the Genesis 1 and 2 accounts, is that God refuses to do the work the humans can do. And he is so desirous of participants. That's what an image bearer is. And obviously that gets adjusted after Genesis 3. I understand that entirely. But the vision of God in the world is that God's sovereignty, his beauty, and his goodness is manifested through the humans, not around them.
Yeah.
And so that gets so in my theology, that gets reconstituted in Jesus, so that in our image bearing, we're actually imaging God again in our action, not in our praying, but in our action. And so I almost want to say, and I can't think of a counter to this yet, but I almost want to say it, like to say thoughts and prayers and to not act within the domain of authority that you have been given is actually not glorifying God, because glorifying God in that instance would be acting as an image bearer in a way that's congruent with God's purposes for the world.
100%.
So the inaction there and the punting to thoughts and prayers is actually like he is subhuman. And I do this too. Anytime I'm sitting there punting to God when I could do something about it, but don't, that's attaching God's name to an empty thing. I'm not imaging God correctly.
That is using the Lord's name in vain.
Yeah, totally. And so the older I get now into my late 30s, I feel like one of the things, why are you laughing? One of the things that I'm beginning to appreciate more and more is how much God wants the church to do the work of God in the world and not to punt to God to do God's work in the world. Now
how many scriptures can you think of that say exactly that too? Like
zillions. Yeah. That's not to say that we usher in the kingdom of God. We don't. Right. And it's not to say that every time Christians act, it's good action. Not at all. Right. But like image bearing it just is fundamentally acting in the world in ways that are congruent with God's purposes and reveal his character to the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what we image when we're just thoughting and praying is we image a God who is distant, who doesn't care, and who is powerless to do anything about this. That's what we're imaging.
Yeah.
That
totally
God is
agree. We
callous.
Get that with the worship conversation too, right? Like this is, there are active elements of these things and we've made them very passive.
That's right. Exactly right. Right. So all of, yeah. So, and I'm guilty of this. I'm not sitting from afar throwing arrows. I am as guilty of passivity in some places where I do have authority, control, resources, whatever. And I just sort of punt, well, God, would you do something in this situation? And
isn't it beautiful that we were built with the ability to repent?
Which is one of the ways we image God is by turning around over and over and over again. You bet. So I just have so little. It used to be the dream of my tribe, the evangelical tribe, to have Christian people all over the political arena. And I've so flipped on that where I was almost disappointed, to see, oh boy, here we go. And I don't want to be like that. I want to, celebrate the move of God wherever, but I'm so skeptical with, like you, Tim. I don't know, man. I just don't know. I don't know.
I remember getting a big argument when George Bush Jr. was elected. And it came all the way down to, aren't you just glad that there is a Christian man in office? And I was like, if he's going to do things that are counter to what God is looking to do, then no, I'm not excited that he's in that position.
Yeah, totally.
Such a mess.
Well, it's worse. I mean, to do anti-Jesus stuff in Jesus' name is actually worse than somebody who had no connection to Jesus doing stuff.
Totally.
And so, that's where I remember one of my favorite interactions I had as a pastor at Rock Harbor way back in the day was with somebody, and I was talking about driving as a way of loving your neighbor.
Right.
Because in California, it's not. Anywhere, it's not. and this, I think it was a young woman. I don't remember. It was somebody young who had an ichthus on their car. The little fish symbol of Jesus. And also drove horribly by her own admission. And I said, well, you've got a choice, right? You either drive better and represent the ichthus, or you take the little ichthus off. And so that's what she did. She ended up just taking the Christian symbol off. It was like,
well, there's a reason why my mock church is called the First Church of Golgotha. And it was after that conversation with the 7 Mountain Mandate, and I think the guy's name was Curtis Chang. That was like, our God was on one mountain. It was the hill called Golgotha, where he surrendered all of his power, not tried to hoard it and take it. That's still just that quote in that conversation about the 7 Mountain Mandate, which speaks to what you've been talking about Christians trying to take positions of power all over, and that's the best way to influence the country.
And I don't want to denigrate that good Christian people in positions of influence can be great.
Sure. They can also be terrible. But it just shows, like, we've had so many conversations about serving your immediate community. Like, do
Haas.
That's more what we've been doing.
Yeah. So Tim.
So join the First Church of Golgotha with us.
Yes, Tim Stafford.
I'll send you a sticker.
Let's be really clear about this. I think for a lot of us, and I'm, I think I'm a bit of a holdout on the institutional part of that, and part of it's because I fit really well in the institutional church, and I fit into the 35, 40-minute sermon guy. Like, I do that well. But the only reason I'm in that is because I'm surrounded with people who feel the same way about it as I do. Like really skeptical. This is not the end goal of this form that we have. But there are so many people like you and others who are starting to, just out of sheer frustration, trying to dream up other expressions that, there's nothing new under the sun. It's not like there's some revolutionary form out there that's going to change everything.
But there's a reorientation.
That's what it is. Exactly right. Exactly right. So,
like a communal repentance.
Well, I think, yes, I think part of what the church, and this is where Gombis has really shaped a lot of thinking that I've since discovered a lot of other scholarship, but it was Gombis who first introduced the idea to me that the spiritual disciplines are all corporate. And so you only can do spiritual disciplines with people of God. It's like reconciling.
Oh, we got to unpack that.
Yeah. That's part of what I'm going to talk about in Long Beach. Oh. Because my topic out there is like, how do you be formed by the Bible? And as opposed to informed, right? So how do you read it for formation rather than information?
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yes, but the question is, how does formation happen? Is it magic? Do you just open the Bible and it happens? Is it a reward for your effort? Is it just sheer willpower, or is it some other picture? And obviously, I'm arguing it's the some other picture that the spiritual disciplines. Like, I'm going to list all of the spiritual disciplines out, and it's 59 one another statements. So forgive one another, bear one another's burdens.
We shared those once on here, right?
We did. But those are the spiritual disciplines. And I read my Bible and pray on my own to prepare to engage in the spiritual disciplines I encounter in the community. You know what I mean? So lament, this is what got me thinking about this, the idea of lament, of doing church in a way that is like full of lament and repentance. Man, I think there's something to that that's pretty freaking cool. Yeah. So anyway, those are great thoughts, Timothy, John.
Good stuff.
Let's talk about the beast, because we hit the dragon. Let's talk about the beast, the Antichrist, 666. I mean, let's hit some big stuff today.
Halloween, baby.
Yeah. Well, let's see how much. We'll go 40 minutes. We'll see how much we get through, because this may be a two-parter. And I'm not going to do a review because we did a pretty thorough review kind of last episode. We're focusing on vision. So in these cycles of three that represent sort of 3 day of the Lord sort of scenarios, these cycles of three get interrupted by a little scroll. And that little scroll is the scroll that's opened by Jesus and that gets ingested by John. And then John reveals the content of the scroll through a series of visions. And one of those visions we talked about was the temple and being measured, and then the 2 witnesses in the realm of the Gentiles. But then he has...
It's so weird. It's so weird that this is confusing.
Seriously. But it wouldn't have been to them the way it is to us, of course, which is a huge point. Just because it's confusing to us doesn't mean that they would have had to decode it the way that we do. Totally. These were conventional images, conventional ways and forms of writing. So particularly if you were Jewish or had knowledge of the Jewish scriptures, man, this stuff just jumps off the page. Yeah. So we met the dragon, right? Which is this ancient serpent who is a picture of some spiritual being. Now we want to meet the beast. All right. So the part of Revelation we're going to look at chapter 12, which is this encounter between this child and a dragon. Then we're going to look at chapter 13, which is where we meet two beasts that lead the world in the worship of the dragon. And so when we see beasts, I always thought these are people. But to the Jewish imagination, not even remotely, these are nations.
They weren't picturing Joe Biden?
Or Mikhail Gorbachev, or Saddam Hussein. Exactly. So let's read a bit of background. Now, the book of Daniel, my friend, is one of the most important books for Jesus's imagination and Revelation's imagination. When Jesus talks, when he ever uses, he'll use the phrase "Son of Man" to describe himself and his vocation. That's channeling Daniel. When he talks about coming in the clouds in glory, that's channeling Daniel. When he talks about the kingdom of God coming to dethrone the kingdoms of the world, that's Daniel. So Daniel is, and it's one of the least understood books because we hear about it because it's Daniel in the lion's den, or whatever. But the book is apocalyptic and it's prophetic in the same way, Revelation kind of is. And people, depending on how you understand Daniel, then you'll understand Revelation in a different way and so on. So we don't have time to get into all that, except to say we're going to encounter a beast. Now in Daniel, the book opens with 4 Jewish individuals in Babylon who are renamed and repurposed for leadership in the royal courts. In chapter 2, we meet a king who has a dream about a statue made out of 4 different kinds of metals. And the different metals represented 4 different versions of the kingdom of the world, and a whole sequence of kingdoms that would come onto history. And then that statue is confronted by a boulder, which represents the kingdom of God, which destroys the statue and grows into a mountain. And Daniel, of course, interprets this dream. Later on in chapter 4, this King Nebuchadnezzar literally becomes a beast because of his megalomania and blasphemy. He literally becomes a beast. In chapter 7, we meet another dream. That dream was Nebuchadnezzar's dream about the statue with the 4 pieces of metal. Now Daniel's going to have another 4-parter dream. And there's another sequence of 4. Daniel is having this dream. All right. So we'll pick it up in Daniel 7, verse 1. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream, and visions passed through his mind as he was lying in bed. Now, the minute you hear visions pass through his mind, we know what kind of dream this is. This is a symbolic dream. This is a vision. He wrote down the substance of his dream. Daniel said, "In my vision at night, I looked, and there before me were the 4 winds of heaven churning up the great sea." Now, that's important. 4 great beasts, each different from the others, came out of the sea. So in chapter 2, we meet a statue composed of 4 different building materials. Here we meet 4 great beasts, all right? And they come from the sea, which is interesting. 4 great beasts, each different from the others, came up out of the sea. Now, to the Jewish imagination, if you were looking for a way to describe an oppressive, evil, and violent empire and its work in the world, you would often use the image of a beast to describe that empire. So like one of the examples is in Isaiah chapter 5. This is the description of Babylon coming to Jerusalem. Their roar is like that of the lion. They roar like young lions. They growl as they seize their prey and carry it off with no one to rescue. So this is an image that is used to describe how one kingdom comes against another kingdom. And the image is of a lion, of a beast. So if you have Jewish ears on, you have a category for what beast means. Beast doesn't mean individual, beast means kingdom. So 4 great beasts, and if we're unclear about this, it'll actually say it directly here in a little bit. 4 great beasts, each different from the others, came up out of the sea. The first was like a lion. It had the wings of an eagle. I watched until its wings were torn off, and it was lifted from the ground so that it stood on 2 feet like a human being, and the mind of a human was given to it. And there before me was the second beast, which looked like a bear. It was raised up on one of its sides and had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. It was told, "Get up and eat your fill of flesh." After that I looked, and there before me was another beast, one that looked like a leopard. And on its back it had 4 wings like those of a bird. This beast had 4 heads, and it was given authority to rule. After that, in my vision at night, I looked, and there before me was a 4th beast, terrifying and frightening and very powerful. It had large iron teeth. It crushed and devoured its victims and trampled underfoot whatever was left. It was different from all the other former beasts. It had 10 horns. Oh, now we meet horns. Now, horns, think of a bull. Think of what is that run, the running of the bulls? The horns represent the strength and the power, right, of the bull.
Which if you ever watch Running with the Bulls and see somebody get flipped by those horns.
Oh, you want to get out of the way. I'm just telling you right now. But they symbolize power or a strength. So in Psalm 75, to the arrogant I say, boast no more. To the wicked, do not lift up your horn. So boast no more and lifting up your horn are parallel statements, the way that Hebrew parallelism works. So boasting in your strength or boasting in your power, that's what a horn sort of represents. Do not lift your horns against heaven. Do not speak so defiantly. So lifting your horn and speaking defiantly are equivalent statements. So horns stand for power that can be used for good or for bad. In this case, we meet a beast, the 4th beast, which is more terrifying than the other 3, and it has 10 horns. While I was thinking about the 10 horns, there before me was another horn, a little one, which came up among them, and 3 of the first horns were uprooted before it. This horn had eyes like the eyes of a human being and a mouth that spoke boastfully. That's straight from the Psalms, right? So you're like, man, we got beasts, we got horns. What in the world's happening? Now, to the Jewish imagination, we're talking about kingdoms of the earth and their rulers, all right? And in case we're wondering if that's how they would have seen it, Daniel literally says this in a little bit. This is what this represents. Now, in the midst of these 4 great empires, because remember, we've already met a sequence of 4 in chapter 2 that stood for different empires in a sequential order. Now we're meeting another sequence of 4 that stand for empires in a sequential order. The first sequence of 4 was interrupted by a boulder, right, that crushed the statue and turned into a mountain. Now this sequence of 4 is interrupted by, and then there's this kind of poetic indentation in the text. It says, as I looked, thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. Ancient of Days is one of the most beautiful, ways to reference Yahweh. His clothing was white as snow. The hair of his head was white like wool. Now, interesting, those are images applied to Jesus in chapter 1 of Revelation. We've already met those images. His throne was flaming with fire, and its wheels were all ablaze. That's interesting. A river of fire was flowing, coming out before him. Thousands upon thousands attended him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. This is straight from Revelation 4 and 5, right?
Yeah.
The court was seated. Now, we're talking about the heavenly court here. The court was seated, and the books were opened. Now, we're going to meet later in Revelation books that are opened. So the end of Revelation is actually the fulfillment of this picture, but we'll get there. Then I continue to watch. Because of the boastful words the horn was speaking, I looked until the beast was slain, and its body destroyed and thrown into the blazing fire. Now, and later on in Revelation, we're going to meet a lake of blazing fire that beasts get thrown into.
Yeah.
All right? That's where this image comes from.
Meat Puppets song.
Okay. Perfect.
You saw it on Nirvana Unplugged. Where do bad folks go when they die?
Oh, there you go. That's funny. Now, I kept looking until the beast was slain, its body destroyed and thrown in the blazing fire. The other beasts had been stripped of their authority, but were allowed to live for a period of time. In my vision at night, I looked, and there before me was one like a son of Adam, or a son of man. It just literally means a human being. Now, this gets so blown up into the ministry of Jesus, right? One like a son of man that's Jesus. He refers to himself like this over and over and over and over again. And the one like a son of man is a singular person, but also is a representative of the whole group of righteous human beings. So there's a singular person that's one like a son of man, but because the one is like a son of man, that person is also representative of all the other ones. Make sense?
Yes.
Nice. In my vision at night I looked, and there before me was one like a son of man coming with the clouds of heaven. Now again, during Jesus's trial, he will say this.
Yeah.
When you see the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven, and the image is of the Son of Man ascending to the Ancient of Days. All right. And it's an image of judgment, as we'll just see in a second. And so literally when Jesus looks at his religious opponents and they're pressing him, are you the Messiah? And he says, when you see the Son of Man coming on the clouds, he's saying to them, like literally he's saying to them, you are the beast of Daniel 7, and I am the one coming like the Son of Man. I mean,
and we assume that even they understood that in that statement.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, so juicy. All right, here we go. The Son of Man approached the Ancient of Days and was led into his presence. He was given authority, glory, sovereign power. All nations and peoples of every language worshiped him. Remember, in Revelation chapter 4, we meet the one who sits on the throne. Mm-hmm. And then and he's worshiped. He's given authority, power, and honor. But then we meet the Lamb who was slain, who then receives the same acclaim. Mm-hmm. So this in Daniel 7 is actually the picture we get that's fulfilled, or maybe not fulfilled, because it sounds like that was like a calendar promise or something. But like this was what it was prefiguring.
Yeah.
What we get fleshed out in Revelation is embedded in sort of embryonic form here. That this other being gets the acclaim that was given to the Ancient of Days too.
Yeah.
He was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. All nations and peoples of every language worshiped him. And remember, Revelation 5 says that over and over and over, every tongue, tribe, and nation. His dominion, so his rulership, is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and his kingdom is one that will never be destroyed. That's the boulder that crashes into the first sequence of 4. Now, what's crashing into the sequence of 4 is a person, one like a son of man, who has been given authority by the Ancient of Days to do what? Well, we'll read about that. I, Daniel, was troubled in spirit, and the visions that passed through my mind disturbed me. I approached one of those standing there, so an angelic spiritual being, and asked him for the meaning of all of this. So he told me and gave me the interpretation of these things. The 4 great beasts are 4 kingdoms that will rise from the earth. Duh. But the holy people of the Most High will receive the kingdom and possess it forever. Yes, forever and ever. So the Son of Man comes in the midst of these beasts, and the Son of Man singularly gets all of this authority and power, but somehow also represents all of the people of the Most High, and the people of the Most High will receive the kingdom and possess it forever because of the work that this one who's like a Son of Man does. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
Then, Daniel says, I wanted to know the meaning of the 4th beast. Now, this is the reason we never get into this stuff, right? This is awful. But it sets us up when we get to Revelation and we read about beasts coming from the sea.
Yeah.
You're not thinking, oh, this is a person. This is like the Antichrist or something. No, 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 no. These are nations and kingdoms, and we're drawing on this tradition that's thousands of years old at the point Revelation was written. Then I wanted to know the meaning of the fourth beast, which was different from all the others and the most terrifying. With its iron teeth and bronze claws, the beast that crushed and devoured its victims and trampled underfoot whatever was left. I also wanted to know about the 10 horns on its head and about the other horn that came up, before which 3 of them fell, the horn that looked more imposing than all the others and had eyes and a mouth that spoke boastfully. As I watched, this horn was waging war against the holy people and defeating them. Now, the commentators I read are almost universal in their understanding that this little horn is in reference to Antiochus Epiphanes IV, who, after Daniel, depending on when you think Daniel was written, who brought persecution onto Israel in ways it had never been persecuted. He slaughtered a pig in the Holy of Holies. He outlawed Sabbath and Torah observance and circumcision. He blasphemed. He was the abomination that causes desolation.
Yeah.
So we think that the horn here represents a literal figure, like a ruler who oppressed God's people dramatically. And this, in the Jewish imagination, would have been a very real scenario and a very potent picture of what oppression and violence look like.
Yeah, and it makes sense with that imagery.
Yeah.
With how the horns played out.
Totally. And the horn represents the beast.
Yeah.
So as I watched this horn waging war against the holy people and defeating them, this happened until the Ancient of Days came and pronounced judgment in favor of the holy people of the Most High. And then the time came when they possessed the kingdom. So there's some period of persecution that's happening, but the people, even though they're being persecuted, are guaranteed the kingdom, and they will not lose it. He gave me this explanation. The fourth beast is a fourth kingdom that will appear on the earth. It will be different from all the other kingdoms and will devour the whole earth, trampling it down and crushing it. The 10 horns are 10 kings. So remember, beasts are nations, horns are kings. All right? The 10 horns are 10 kings who will come from this kingdom. After them, another king will rise, different from the earlier ones. He will subdue 3 kings. He will speak against the Most High and oppress his holy people and try to change the set times and laws. The holy people will be delivered into his hand for a time, times, and half a time, which is a very Jewish way of saying 3.5 years, or a very Jewish way of saying for a set period of time, but a brief time, not a forever time. But the court will sit, and power will be taken away from the beast, and the beast will be completely destroyed forever. Then the sovereignty, power, and greatness of all the kingdoms under heaven will be handed over to the holy people and the Most High. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and rulers will worship and obey him. In other words, to the ancient persecuted peoples, the day of the Lord is coming, when God will put this to right, and you will receive the kingdom you were promised. This is the end of the matter. I, Daniel, was deeply troubled by my thoughts and my face turned pale. I kept the matter to myself. Oh, okay. Now,
that was like an appropriate response.
Yeah. Now we get more in Daniel 10 and Daniel 12. But here's the idea. Regardless of whether or not you get lost in all of this, and I don't blame anybody if they do, we're set up to understand beasts as kingdoms and horns as rulers. That's the big point.
Yeah.
So when we get to Revelation, and we get to this period where we finished the trumpets almost, and now we meet this little scroll that's now open, and John ingests it, and he says, and I saw signs in heaven which are symbols. So these are symbolic visions of a temple, of witnesses. Now we're going to get one of a symbolic vision of a dragon. Where did we meet the dragon before? We met the dragon all the way in Genesis chapter 3, right? The serpent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so we're not confused as to who this is or what this, what is happening. So this is Revelation 12. And what John is going to do is give us in 12, he's going to give us this battle, this conflict between the seven churches and the empire. He's going to give it to us in cosmic terms. A dragon up in the heavens. In chapter 13, he's going to give us the political version using the imagery of Daniel. That there's an empire oppressing God's people, just like Daniel talked about. All right? I know this is so hard, but Revelation 12, you're doing great.
It's just like a 7-layer dip.
Dude.
You just got to keep going down to the beans.
And why is it 7 layers? Because 7 is the number of completion. Yes, exactly. Now, a great sign appears in heaven. A woman clothed with the sun, Old Testament image, with the moon under her feet and a crown of 12 stars on her head. Now, the minute you start seeing 12 anything in the Bible, you're like, oh, that's the Messiah's people. Got it. She was pregnant. So this is a sign. This is not a literal vision. This is a symbol. So this is what apocalypses do. They give us different lenses through which to view earthly events. So here's one picture of what's happening to these 7 churches. This woman was pregnant and she cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign or symbol appeared in the heavens, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its heads. Its tail swept 1/3 of the stars out of the sky and flung them to the earth. Now again, we just want to go, oh yeah, this is, man, some sort of comet storm or something. You're like, nope, this is different. This isn't about something that happened in Genesis. This is about how Jesus defeated the dragon, and now the dragon is going after the church, right? That's what this story is envisioning. This isn't about like the birth of the universe or something.
So Jesus has defeated the dragon, and the dragon is going after the church.
Yes, that's the idea. And this is the imagery he'll use.
Yet.
Then another sign appeared in heaven, enormous red dragon, 7 heads, 10 horns, 7 crowns. Its tail swept 1/3 of the stars out of the sky, flung them to the earth. The dragon stood in front of the woman who was about to give birth, so it might devour her child the moment he was born. Now, again, this is just retelling the story of Jesus. She gave birth to a son, a male child who will rule the nations with an iron scepter, right? This is the Messiah. That's Psalm chapter 2. And her child was snatched up to God and to his throne. So the child who was snatched up, this is a way of talking about the vindication of Jesus through his life, death, burial, and resurrection. So he was snatched up to God and his throne. The woman, standing for the people of God, fled into the wilderness to a place prepared for her by God where she might be taken care of for 1,260 days or 3.5 years. Again, we're meeting this time period over and over and over.
Or a short amount of time, not forever.
Yeah, exactly. And it 3.5 years or 1,260 days gets associated with a kind of time. It's a time of suffering. It's not a forever time of suffering, but it's a time of suffering.
It's also half of 7.
And that's the point. That's the point. If 7 is full time, 3.5 is partial time.
Yeah.
Then war broke out in heaven. And this is where people want to read this all the way back into like Genesis. And this is how Jesus defeated the powers. Okay. This is symbolic. Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. The dragon and his angels fought back, but he was not strong enough and they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth and his angels with him. The point of this vision is to explain to the 7 churches why they're being persecuted and what stands behind it. Okay? So, Yep. So Jesus' victory, this isn't a reference to like the ancient battle that happened in heaven, in like Genesis or something. There is no reference to Genesis of any kind of battle like that. This is a picture of this is the Messiah, Jesus. So this is in their time that this is happening, right? The woman with 12 stars give birth to a son, the Christ who gets snatched up to God and his throne. We just read about God and his throne. Make sense? So this is contemporary. This is like contemporaries contemporaries. This is happening at the same time. Now, then I heard a loud voice in heaven. Now have come the salvation and power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Messiah. So this is about Jesus. For the accuser of our brothers, who accuses them before our God day and night, has been hurled down. In other words, Satan lost this. They, the brethren, all right? So the martyrs now, all of a sudden we're dealing with a plural. They triumphed over the dragon by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. They did not love their lives so much so as to shrink from death. This is exactly the overcoming image we've met the whole book, right? Therefore, rejoice, you heavens, and you who dwell in them, but woe to you. So the realm above has been defeated. Satan has been defeated in the realm above. But woe to you in the earth and the sea, because the devil has gone down to you. He is filled with fury because he knows his time is short. When the dragon saw that he'd been hurled to the earth, he pursued the woman who'd given birth to the male child. The woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle so she might fly to the place prepared for her in the wilderness, where she could be taken care of for a time, times, and half a time, out of the serpent's reach. Then from his mouth the serpent spewed water like a river to overtake the woman and sweep her away in the torrent. But the earth helped the woman by opening its mouth and swallowing the river that the dragon had spewed out of its mouth. Then the dragon was enraged. This is the point of the story. Then the dragon was enraged at the woman and went off to wage war against the rest of her offspring, those who keep God's commands and hold fast to their testimony about Jesus. I have no freaking clue about the water spewing and the earth thinking. I have no clue. There are some scholars, and I think there's a decent case here, that this whole dragon baby thing is actually replaying one of the Roman pantheon stories of a god and a goddess. It's one of the birth stories of one of the gods. Mm-hmm. If I remember right, it's the birth story of Apollo that's like this. And again, could it be a jab at, Roman imperial propaganda? Could be. I just don't know. I don't have any idea.
Yeah.
The point though is clear, even though the imagery isn't always, which is the dragon is waging war now against the offspring of the male child. Yeah. So if you are one of the 7 churches, you are the offspring of the child, and this is what's behind your persecution.
And it's actually helpful to reframe or to give more of a frame to other conversations we've had about like the now and the not yet, the victory and the victory to come, and almost gives a little bit of a tangible context to that.
That's right.
Rather than just being,
It's another way of saying to those 7 churches, resist the powers of Rome, because behind them sit this ancient enemy of God's people. And you will overcome and be victorious the way that everyone else has overcome and been victorious, by the blood of the Lamb and the word of your testimony against this. They were faithful even unto death. So again, this whole thing is not designed to forecast the end of the world, but to be encouraging to the churches that were there in the first century.
At that time.
And therefore can be encouraging to us, because as we'll see, there are beasts roaming today.
Yeah.
That will, kind of stir up similar sentiments. All right. So that's chapter 12. That's cosmic perspective. Here's chapter 13. Yeah. Oh, and it doesn't get any better. The dragon. Now remember, the dragon is down on the earth now. So how is the dragon going to oppress God's people? He's going to enlist the help of 2 beasts. And this forms almost an anti-Trinity, because we have on the Trinity side, we've got God, Spirit, Jesus. Here we've got dragon and 2 beasts. And the 2 beasts aren't different kingdoms. The 2 beasts are 2 ways. One kingdom represents the dragon into the world. Okay? So we'll see this in just a second. The dragon stood on the shore of the what? The sea. Remember where the beasts come from? And I saw a beast coming out of the sea. This is straight from the Daniel 7 playbook. We know already this is a kingdom, right? Mm-hmm. It had 10 horns and 7 heads. We've met horns and we've met heads. No problem. These are rulers. With 10 crowns on its horns, and each head a blasphemous name. We're not even going to say the names of these rulers, which is so awesome. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear and a mouth like a lion. Now, do you remember lion, bear, and leopard were bits and pieces of the different kingdoms that, in that second sequence of 4,
Earlier,
which is totally interesting. One of the heads of the beast seemed to have a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. Now, remember, the head of the beasts represent the rulers, the emperors. And so there's a lot of speculation about who this is a reference to, but the text doesn't tell us. The text does tell us, though, that the whole world was filled with wonder and followed this beast, and this beast is a kingdom. People worshiped the dragon because he had given authority to the beast. And they also worshiped the beast and asked, who is like the beast? Who can wage war against it? So this is in reference to the military prowess of Rome. Who can wage war against the beast? Well, this beast has, claws and weapons and, whatever else. The beast was given a mouth to utter proud words and blasphemies and to exercise its authority for 42 months. There's a number again. It opened its mouth to blaspheme God and to slander his name and his dwelling place and those who live in heaven. Now, this is exactly what we were seeing in Daniel. Right? And a blasphemous ruler leading an idolatrous kingdom, oppressing the people of God. Have we seen this before? Yes. That's the whole point. The beast, was given power to wage war against God's holy people. Same thing from Daniel 7. And to conquer them. Daniel 7. It was given authority over every tribe, language, people, and nation. All inhabitants of the earth, the known earth, will worship the beast. All whose names have not been written in the Lamb's book of life. Remember the books that were opened? Daniel 7, here we go. Whoever has ears, let them hear this saying. If anyone is to go into captivity they will go. If anyone is to be killed with the sword they will be killed. In other words, persecution will be allowed to run its course for that time. This calls for patient endurance and faithfulness on the part of God's people. Now, the last thing God's people today are known for, patient endurance and faithfulness. But what this is an image of is that Rome will rule, that what's about to happen isn't going to take Rome's rulership and supplant it with the kingdom of God right away. A day of the Lord is coming against Rome, absolutely. But the people of God will be persecuted even during that. Mm-hmm. Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, which is interesting, but it spoke like a dragon. So we think this is some sort of ritual beast, like some cultic beast. It exercised all the authority of the first beast. So the beast here is the same empire, but represented 2 different ways. The first way was militarily. Who can wage war against this beast? But notice this one. It exercised all the authority of the first beast on its behalf, and it made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose fatal wound had been healed. So we think this, pretty clearly is a reference to the imperial cult, the propaganda that we've been reading about as backdrop for all of this. Make sense? So even though Rome's rulership over the earth was threatened from time to time by civil war, or there was a 1 year called the Year of the 4 Emperors, where they were just assassinating each other like crazy, which is what some people think this, beast that has a wound in its, or the head that has wounded, is in reference to. The point is that we're talking about a nation, because beasts are kingdoms, and horns and are rulers, and heads are rulers. But this time, we're not talking about 2 different beasts. We're talking about 2 different facets of the same beast. One
being the propaganda.
One is military, and one is almost ritualistic or religious, or the propaganda. Because this one reflects the first beast, but causes people to worship it.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Notice, it doesn't cause people to worship the dragon. It causes people to worship the first beast.
Yeah.
So the first beast causes people, it has the authority of the dragon, but the second beast causes people to worship the first beast. So we think that's the cultic propaganda.
Which makes sense, right? Spreading
totally
misinformation, bad theology, bad
all
whatever.
Yep, all the
that gives you
blasphemous
permission
claims.
And encourages you to land at the feet of this empire
And
or
if
whatever.
you don't, here comes the teeth.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It performed great signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to the earth in full view of the people. So it's manifesting some sort of religious power. Because of the signs, it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast. It deceived the inhabitants of the earth. It ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. So the image honoring, right, Rome.
Yeah.
The second beast was given power to breathe or to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that the image could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed. So this is all the imperial justification. It also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads. Now here is
Bill Gates.
the infamous mark of the beast. And doggone it, we just got a question about this emailed into us. We haven't covered it. So great timing for your question. Now, we have, or I've read of us having coins that have blasphemous images and names on them that were used to buy and sell in the agora, the marketplaces throughout empire. I've also read of having like little pinches of incense that you would have to do in the Ephesian marketplace, for instance, to honor Caesar's lordship, and then you would be given a certificate that said you would honor the gods and then you conduct business. So the mark could be something like that. But when it's on their right hands or their foreheads, this is straight from Deuteronomy, where the Shema was to be on their right hands and their foreheads. So this is the anti-Shema. The Shema, so having the Shema, the prayer, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord alone, that prayer was to be on your hands and your forehead, on your door frames, and it symbolized your devotion to Torah. What I'm thinking here is that having it on your forehead or your right hand symbolizes your devotion to empire.
Yeah,
and so that devotion can come in many different ways. That could come through a pinch of incense. It could come through a kind of coinage that you had to, use in the marketplaces. It could come through some sort of certificate that said you'd paid, credence to the gods. But what's important isn't the specific way or the specific device that was used as a mark. It was the fact that it represented a heart's devotion to the ways of empire.
Yeah,
it represented assimilation to empire.
That's the word.
That's the word. We've got there finally. So when people freak out about vaccines and, putting a microchip, under our skin or, something, and they call that the mark of the beast, it's very misguided, and it misses the much more profound point that anything that causes us to give devotion to the ways of empire or to empire itself can be a mark of the beast.
Yeah.
So, when you could say that about the dollar bills that say in God we trust, but then are used to whatever else. You could say that about the flags that were used to, conquer ancient peoples in the name of manifest destiny. You could say that about the ways in which, oppressed peoples were forced to obey civil laws that were completely unfair to them, right? And I don't want to just make it about like social justice, but certainly that's a way it plays. Another way it would play
for sure
is the false worship of anything, right? Whether that's money, sex, power, things that we've talked about before. So the mark of the beast isn't a specific mark, but it's a symbolic allegiance to the ways of empire. And it raises the question, well, what are the marks? Like I have a retirement account, and in that retirement account, I have mutual funds. I don't have the foggiest idea what those funds invest in, what they do with the money. I don't know if it's good or bad. I have no idea. I have an iPhone. I don't know a lot. I know a little about the working conditions of the people who make this. I'm just so, as long as products come to me cheaply and plentifully, I'm good with kind of not knowing where they come from or how they got
I think
here.
that's the key feature. So not to darken this too much, but like I sent you and Susie that tweet last night about how like once Sandy Hook
Yeah.
happened, that's when the gun debate ended, because if we were okay with kindergartners being killed, then there's no bottom under that. Like,
Yeah.
we bottomed out and we were okay with it. And so
Yeah.
the guy was saying the debate is over because of that. And it really made me think about how it's like dipping your toe in a cold pool, and then slowly you just kind of going further until you're like, oh, this is fine.
Yeah.
You've assimilated to the cold.
That's right.
And we do that. We're, as human beings, like we do short, like, acquiesces to
Yeah.
empire. And then when you realize that you're not dying, or you haven't fallen apart, or the world hasn't ended with those little, you can just see how you just go into that. And you're like, well, this beast isn't that bad.
Totally.
And this is what everybody's doing. And this is the status quo. And this is how we live. And this is how we operate.
Right.
And then when you look in hindsight, you see the carnage. So
Right.
we were reading the new Jim Crow in class, and it prompted a huge conversation about how, when we decided that slavery was bad and abolished it, we just changed it to a more acceptable version when we brought in Jim Crow, and then redlining, and then the new Jim Crow, like the war on drugs, different things. Like, we've just repackaged it. But when the package looks tidier, or is presented as more acceptable, we're all comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And so as you're going through this, I'm just thinking of all those different examples. The manifest destiny obviously is one of those things. Like, it's in the name of God and country that we're doing this thing. It's rightfully ours to kill hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, you see it. You can see it plain as day played out.
Well,
and then you're worshiping that beast.
Well, yeah, I think of like a couple of congressional people who, after mass shootings involving AR-15s, wear AR-15 pins,
just wild,
on their clothes. So I'm like, well, I mean, I get the Second Amendment, but that's the mark of the beast right there. That's the ways of empire. That only violence conquers violence. That's it. That's the only answer.
So then you look at resistance, and you've talked about resistance, and we've talked about it in worship, and we've talked about it as the church being a counter narrative and worship being a counter narrative. And it's like, you see that in this conversation.
Absolutely. So this isn't, as it turns out, this isn't like ancient theory. This is, this is still very live. And I have to, and again, the point is for the church to ask itself, where am I assimilating? Where am I partnering? Where am I a co-defendant with, the ways of empire? And it's not just me as an individual consumer. It's the church. What dynamics are up and running in the church that are ways of the dragon?
Man, that image, the dragon behind the beast, they're not.
That's right.
You're not carving a pentagram into your forehead. You know what I mean?
Well,
it's so smart.
The subtlety. So the dragon gets cast down.
Yeah.
So the dragon now pursues the people. Does the dragon pursue the people directly? Well, in this symbolic vision, the dragon pursues it by raising up a great kingdom from the sea. Yeah. And that kingdom has two parts, a religious part and a military part. Both.
So smart.
Yeah. Yeah. And the religious part doesn't worship the dragon. It worships the first beast, the military might of Rome, the peace achieved through Augustus. Now, the thing we're going to see, of course, is that this plays out over and over and over and over. Again, nothing in this is just a one-time deal until we get to chapter 20. And even that might be something that happens over and over. I have no idea. But
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yes. Now, there's one last bit we've got to do here that is attached to 13 that is very confusing. And that is the number of the beast, my friend. So he mentions a mark on their right hands or their foreheads so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. And that's where we get, 666 is an evil number, whatever. Mm-hmm. Now, this calls for wisdom. Now, remember, in some ancient languages, Hebrew being among them, alphabets and alphabets were your letter and your number, like systems. So this calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. That number is 666. Now, notice to the ancient audience, the writer is saying, you can know who this is. This is not saying only 21st century people could figure this out, right? Yeah. So let's get on that horse right away. But secondly, and there's so much great scholarship on this, that the number for the word beast, that number is 666. And the word Nero Caesar is the number 666. And in fact, we have there's a variation. Some ancient manuscripts have 616 instead of 666. Most of them have 666, but there's a significant number, a minority though, that have 616. And the interesting thing is only Nero Caesar is the name that fits both of those variations. So you get the number of beast, which is 666. You get the Nero Caesar, which is 616 or 666, depending on how you count. And I don't know all the details. I'm channeling like great scholarship. These are not like people at the popular level doing numerology. These are like legit.
The Da Vinci Code.
Yeah. But the point is that and if it's a reference to Nero was the second coming of Antiochus Epiphanes. Nero kicked the Christians out of Rome. Nero set Christians on fire at dinner parties to light his garden parties. Nero, we think, martyred Paul and Peter. Domitian, who I think was emperor when this was written, Nero died under really weird circumstances. And I kid you not, I'm not making this up. It was said he committed suicide, but actually people thought he escaped and would return. He would come back. And one of the myths Domitian latched onto was that he was the reincarnation of Nero. Yeah. The second coming of Nero, which there's like incredible scholarship around why that is actually something when certain things are said about Domitian and it kind of fits, but I don't know if it's right. And it doesn't matter if it is. Even if it is Nero, the point is Nero isn't the only manifestation of the beast. The point is he's the manifestation that was relevant to the people of that day.
Yeah.
And they were invited to figure that out, but he isn't the only one. In fact, and I'll end on this. People bring in here to this idea. So the beast is a person. It's not, it's a kingdom, but the name is, you can figure out the beast because the name beast is 666, but also, Nero Caesar, head of the Roman Empire, might work there too. But we get the idea, or people get the idea of like, this is the Antichrist right here. This is the singular Antichrist. And so I've literally seen people try to read, the names of Napoleon or Saddam Hussein or Mikhail Gorbachev from the 80s, back into 666 and so on. The issue is this, the word Antichrist doesn't appear at all in Revelation, like the word rapture doesn't appear at all in, Revelation. And in fact, notice how the Bible speaks of the Antichrist. Okay, this is all from 1 John. So this proves the point, what I'm about to read proves the point that this isn't a singular image. This is an image that allows us to discern our time and day. Yeah. Dear children, this is the last hour. As you have heard that the Antichrist is coming. Oh, there's just one? No. Even now, many Antichrists have come. This is how we know it's the last hour. Oh, so there's more than one? Who is the liar? This is 1 John 2. It is whoever denies that Jesus is the Christ. Such a person is the Antichrist, denying the Father and the Son. 1 John 4, every spirit that does not acknowledge Jesus is not from God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you have heard is coming and even now is already in the world. 2 John 1, I say this because many deceivers who do not acknowledge Jesus Christ as coming in the flesh have gone out into the world. Any such person is the deceiver and the Antichrist. And I bring that up to illustrate how much nonsense has grown up around this book. And I could be dead wrong, but not about that.
That's
not
clear.
About this stuff. This, even if the tack that we're taking through the text is mistaken, at the very least, we have shown that the dispensational way of reading is fanciful. It is the old forms of it. It maybe there are new forms and sophisticated forms of it. But I don't think it's right. I don't think it has any basis in the text, and it's the result of a lot of assumptions you bring into it about what being prophetic means. So this is not about the revelation of the Antichrist. This is not about the timing of the rapture. This is not about the millennium. This is about 7 churches that were flesh and blood churches that represented all the churches of the area being faithful against Rome, and then the churches since then asking all the discerning questions that the Roman churches were asking about our current context, whether it's in Spain or whether it's in Istanbul or whether it's in the United States. And we're to resist the same dynamics that are at play because the dragon has no new material. And the way the dragon oppresses God's people is by raising up violent regimes. And you know, the thing, if you really want to get people angry, is you just say, well, okay, so is America a beast? And my goodness, we'll get all sorts of fiery comments on that. But the church has to at least ask the question: does America have dynamics have dragon dynamics a part of it that have to be resisted by the church? Is America solely a force for good in the world? And these are not anti-patriotic questions. The fact that you even have to clarify that shows what an idol this can be. This is the discernment that every church everywhere, whether it's in China or Russia or Saudi Arabia, has to undergo.
Yeah.
So the only way to resist assimilation is by understanding the dynamics of empire at play and asking discerning questions that lead us as a community to go, yeah, we can't play there. You know? So there you go. Man, that is a boatload. I have a headache. I'm going to take a bath and eat some yogurt or something. Wow. That's just I mean, I love
Revelation, a bath, and some yogurt.
And you know what? And maybe some John Tesh. You know?
Playing the NBA theme song.
These are all dated references. Maybe not bath. Do people still take baths? I don't know.
I do. That's why I just remodeled my bathtub or my bathroom.
Do you really?
We had no tub. I put in a tub.
And you did it for you.
Well, I also have kids, but I'm like, I know a lot of baths are kind of like pineapple on pizza. People are either like yes or no. And bath for me, that's like a zen. That's my place. I was sitting there for an hour.
Wow. Tim, I'm learning so much. I was saying, referring to baths in a sort of tongue-in-cheek manner, but
I know
you're all in on this. And
I don't want to eat yogurt in the bath, but
yeah, that could be problematic. But all right.
But I've had a glass of whiskey in the bath.
Well, Turn on some music. Just one. Don't put a toaster near there.
I think it's all really fascinating and it makes a lot of sense. And it does have modern implications for how we can. I was thinking about this without knowing that this is what we were doing today when I was on campus, because we have, and I don't know if this is worldwide. I assume it is. There's a Christian flag, we made a flag with the cross in the corner. It looks like the American flag, that churches will. Since I work at a Christian campus.
Yeah.
And they'll have the American flag, the Christian flag, the California flag, all flowing together. And you just look at it, and flags just have that empirical kind of symbolism to them,
Yeah.
and we see even more of that in the last 6 years with all of a sudden there's a huge flag culture, at least in California,
Yeah.
with trucks and flags advertising the previous president in different ways or cursing the current one. And to see what is the Christian flag, I'm using air quotes if you're listening, flying next to the American flag used in a symbol of dominance and power. I don't know. It just gives you that icky vibe of like, this is how we conform to the empire and then baptize it. Or yeah. So it's just I just see it just everywhere. And again, the dragon, it not being that the dragon is the focal point is, I'm going to be chewing on it for the next couple of days. Cause there's just so much to that. Like it just makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And it reframes resistance. It reframes discipleship and discernment and critical thinking and all the things that we've touted in the past, but blind acceptance, assimilation. Those are, I mean, you can just see it plain as day everywhere.
Yeah. And this is where we are like both sidesy, because there isn't one side of all of this that has locked down the Sermon on the Mount. There isn't one side in all of this that, that doesn't represent some sort of dragon influence. And so like, I don't like getting nailed with, you're a both sides kind of person, but I don't know. I think we kind of have to be, because I'm not saying every side is always equivalent. They're not. But even in our rightness, there can be dragon dynamics at play that I want to be on the lookout for. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I mean, I've really appreciated some of the conversations we've had about this, with it not both sidesing, but no sidesing.
Yeah, in some weird way.
And voting according to what advocates for human flourishing.
Yeah.
And so that was part of our new Jim Crow conversation, and I got real ranty. I try, and I don't lecture and I don't do that kind of stuff, but I was a little riled up when we were reading through this stuff, because I'm really nervous. We already have people that are Holocaust deniers. It didn't happen. It's all staged. But we've, up until at least our generation, we've had Holocaust survivors that will come and speak to classrooms, firsthand accounts of the atrocities of the Holocaust.
Yeah.
As that last generation is dying, the firsthand account, people who survived that, I'm worried that history is going to be rewritten and no one's going to combat that in the classrooms too much. And so you see, because as we see these banning of books and different things like that, or, the conversation of Florida about not talking about slavery or bad things from our past, those things start to get erased for a new version of history where we are just good.
Yeah. And
I get really nervous that these things are going to be reframed that way. Jesus is going to be white and right.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and so it kind of freaks me out a little bit that this is part of resisting, because you can see that slippery slope as you assimilate. Assimilation doesn't have to be a huge conversion. It can be just walking in the wrong direction and just slowly making little. Yep.
Those are the best
acquiesces.
Those are the best novels, right? It's not that somebody starts out to kill. It's that they make a decision on page 2 that you don't realize until page 700 has massive implications. And you're like, oh, dang it. Totally, man. Yep. And that's where we can only do this in community with each other, because we can't see.
Yeah. And you need blind. That. You need someone to pick you up when you fall, or to help you reorient sometimes when you have been facing the wrong direction, and then vice versa.
Yep.
You can see how important the community is, and why these letters are not written to individuals, or not, not speaking to individuals, but speaking to communities that need a reorientation or need to open their eyes up. And it's a lot, though. There's a lot. That's a lot to chew on.
Well, it's been 2,000 years and we're still chewing. So that's what's great about it. All right, let's call it a day, my friend.
Yeah.
Happy Halloween to you.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah. For me, the minute I mean, we will decorate the Christmas tree next week, most likely. And that's because Thanksgiving is a part of Christmas. The whole thing comes wrapped in a beautiful bow.
Nightmare Before Christmas just gave us the permission to let Halloween run through it all.
It did. It really did. And I resist. As for me and my household. All right, buddy. You're awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, I forget sometimes you're out there. Sometimes it just feels like Tim and I are talking. So
that is what it is.
I hope somehow this made some sense. You guys are the best. See ya.
Thank you for listening to this conversation. Voxology is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is supported by listeners just like yourself. If you'd like to partner with us, you can do so at patreon.com/Voxology. You can also join the community and hang out and chat with us on the socials. Facebook.com/Voxology Podcast and on Instagram @Voxology. Thank you for walking the long road with us.